Now, it should not surprise you that people are acting like they're rich when in reality they're broke and in reality they're poor. And by the way, this is one of the most dangerous games because when you try to act like the rich people you see on TV, which by the way, they're not really the millionaires out there, those things you do keep you away from being a millionaire like forever because you're always going to be perpetually spending more money than you make. Thus, you never have any money left over to actually invest, to actually make passive income, to actually build some real wealth, okay? So here's a crazy example that I want to use here. But let's say, for example, I was like I used to be. I used to be obese, by the way. How would I go about hiding that I'm not in shape? The answer is I know how to. I wear, for example, oversized t-shirts and also baggy pants, okay? This way, you really can't tell I'm overweight. I'm always on some crazy diets and I'm also talking about nonsense. But for the most part, guess what? Whenever I used to just look in the mirror, I could tell that I'm fat. Whenever I would basically weigh myself, I could tell I was overweight because the weight doesn't lie. The same thing with these people that, hey, they look like they're wealthy, they have a big mansion, drive a fancy luxury car, and they just basically look like they have money. But when they go home and they look at the bills, when you do a net worth calculation, it's usually negative. When they look at how much debt they actually have, it's a ton. And when they look at their job and they're like, what if I get fired tomorrow? You probably can't go past 3 months, okay? Because they probably live paycheck to paycheck. So you can try to hide that you're broke. You can try to fake it, but in reality, you can't fake the math, all right? So in this video, I'm gonna tell you 5 ways that people are basically faking like they're wealthy, but in reality, they're not. And by the way, as you watch this video, you might be doing some of these things yourself too, just like I was before at a certain point. I used to dress, I'll tell you more later, okay? But for the most part, let's get right into the video and do me a favor and smash the like button. Now, the very first thing, guys, is you have to look at where these people actually live. A lot of people are flexing big homes and fancy homes and saying, hey, this guy has to be rich. The truth is, I learned a long time ago that if someone does not own their home, then all you can actually just tell is that they have a pretty big mortgage if they have a fancy home, okay? You can just tell the payments are big. I remember I knew someone, a family member, that had this very nice home. It was like literally a 4-unit home. They had like a main level, a basement, a second floor, and an attic. And every single part of it was basically rented for a moment. And I was like, wow, this guy must be making so much money. But the truth is, all he got from those rents were basically trying to cover the mortgage. And sometimes he couldn't cover the mortgage with those payments. He had to use his own money because he would have vacancies, he would have problems and so on. And for the most part, he wasn't trying to look rich. He just bought something he couldn't afford. But a lot of people buy these crazy homes they can't afford. Like, for example, the average payment right now on a home is about $2,200 because the average home price is about $412,000. Now, you answer me a question. When you think about buying a home for $412,000, most people are not worried about that sticker price. They're just worried about $2,200 per month. I can afford the payment. The answer is, really? So you're willing to lock yourself up for 30 years to pay off a home that is not an investment, and when you're done paying off, when you break up all the math, you're basically just breaking even. That's the truth, okay? So you might hear excuses like, no, we bought this home because it's a nice neighborhood, it's safe, it's important to us, we want to be comfortable. But the truth is, it's all nonsense. If you can't afford something, doesn't matter how safe it is, how comfortable it is, you can't afford it. There are other things you could probably afford that are also comfortable too, okay? Now, number 2 is the whip or the vehicle, as the young folks call it, okay? I think it's backwards with the young folks stuff, but yeah, the vehicle. You might see a lot of these folks with a fancy luxury vehicle. And by the way, just so you guys know, real millionaires, they have homes that are like $300,000 or like $350,000, and a lot of them basically own their homes. And they live in normal neighborhoods, not in fancy upscale neighborhoods. You can read the book called The Millionaire Next Door by Thomas J. Stanley. It breaks everything down. But the vehicle, okay? What car do you think millionaires actually drive? The answer is Ford, Toyota, and Hondas. Those are the most popular brands amongst millionaires. But people that try to fake being rich, they are chasing status symbols. So a lot of the times what they basically drive is, guess what? Mercedes, BMWs, and maybe Audis and just like fancy vehicles. But funny enough, it's kind of crazy how thing works. But a lot of these luxury vehicles, they're less reliable. They're more expensive to maintain. The parts are more expensive, and they give a lot of problems. So it's like people kind of say, I bought this vehicle because it's luxury, I feel good in it, but it's not reliable. It's more expensive, and it doesn't make any sense. And guess what? The average car payment these days, if I'm not mistaken, is almost a little bit above $700. So start doing the math, okay? You have a home that's $2,200. You have a car payment that's $700, and some people even have 2 car payments. And by the way, I'm so tired of people with office job having Ford F-150s or Tesla Cybertrucks or just things they don't need overall, and having no investments, having no passive income, just having a bunch of debt. You kind of have to grow up, okay? Flexing that does not mean you're rich. And just because you say you're not trying to impress anybody doesn't mean you aren't, okay? Those things are very important to know, okay? One thing is what you say with your mouth. Another thing is what you do with your actions, okay? Now, number 3, guys, is going to be the clothes you buy. This is my part. This is where I used to flex, okay? I used to have over 20 pairs of sneakers, a lot of shirts, expensive stuff, buying shoes that were over $200. These days, I can't even picture myself buying a shirt that's over $20, all right? And I have some jeans that cost like $50, $40, but they're good quality jeans. I had them for over 5-6 years, and they last me a very long time. My favorite jean brand has to be Gap. And I would always buy them on Black Friday where I can get like 2 for 1 or like 50% off or something like that. But I'm not afraid to go to Goodwill and get me some used clothes. I'm not afraid to buy a t-shirt for $5, $10. But when you think that, hey, you know how you're going to know that I'm wealthy is by the way I dress. When I see these guys on Instagram or just walking around and I see them with a Gucci shirt or a Gucci something, whatever, I think 2 things. I think it's either fake or it's real, and you're probably an idiot, because buying these things don't really make any sense. And by the way, having someone with a watch that costs over $100,000 doesn't make any sense either, okay? But by the way, I want you guys to understand something. There are different classes of wealth. You have people that are wealthy and did it, for example, without inheriting any money and aren't athletes or ultra wealthy. So their wealth looks very basic and it's very quiet. They drive normal cars, live in a normal neighborhood, but you also have people that are sparkling rich. These are people that inherited money or have very, very high incomes, but they don't really have good return on their incomes, okay? Meaning that for every dollar they make, they don't have a proper return for their investments or how much money their investment makes, okay? It's like, for example, like a Mike Tyson or a Mayweather, or a lot of these guys are athletes, for example, and they spend a bunch of money and they tell you I have good investments, but when you actually break down the math, usually the return about how the investment and so on, it's not that great. But you can't compare yourself to someone that makes $100 million or $5 million every single year or $2 million every single year, and they have, for example, a fancy watch. That's different. If you try to copy that person, you're going to go broke very fast because they can afford that thing. And that's fine if they want to buy it because they can afford it. But it doesn't mean you can. And usually the average millionaire is not pursuing those things. So you want to be very careful with those things. That whole fake it till you make it nonsense, it doesn't make sense. If you try to fake your wealth, the answer is you're going to be broke forever. Unless you're buying fake stuff literally and you're really trying to fool people, then that's different, all right? A lot of artists do that. Now, number 4, guys, is going to be, where do they frequent? The answer is, I spoke to someone once, and I thought this guy was very smart. He even gave me a personal finance class when I was in college. And he told me, me and my wife, we go out all the time. You know, we go to dinner. I'm like, how much do you spend on dinner, okay, in Manhattan? They're like, about like $500, $700. I'm like, are you crazy or something like that? In my head, I really thought he was insane. To spend $500 or $700 on some food, to me, is just insanity. And to think for a second that, hey, no, Tommy, if he likes it, and he enjoys it, that's all that's important. The answer is no. That's also trash. It's a very trash concept that just because you like something, it makes it worth it. You can like doing something that's very terrible that doesn't make sense financially. It's very different stuff, okay? I like it. It makes me happy. That's why I drive a $70,000 Tesla and I have $10 in my bank account. I don't care if it makes you happy. You can't afford it, okay? That's my whole idea. And this guy was basically on a 2-hour commute to come teach me class, having to work 2 jobs. And the answer is, do you think that was responsible for him to be doing? The answer is, of course not. All right? You'll be very careful with this whole idea of if it makes me happy, then it's worth it. The answer is, of course not. Where do people go to vacation? What are they flexing? What are they eating? Where are they going? What are they talking about? All these are ways that they try to basically flex that they're rich. The answer is, doesn't tell you much. A lot of millionaires, they tend to eat exactly where they want to eat. They tend to go on vacation exactly where they want to go on vacation. And millionaires and rich people really do value freedom. They don't want to be tied down to some property that's a vacation home because they got to go there only, which doesn't make any sense, okay? So for the most part, you won't see millionaires actually flexing and posting all their vacations. So just a lot of people just trying to show off and trying to get attention, which is sad. And when I say sad, I mean legitimately sad, because I know people that literally are like this, people that I actually care about. And they really do believe that if I do something, I just got to post it on social media. But that's not true, okay? Now, lastly, guys, is in what these people believe. A lot of these folks, they're into materialism. They're into a fantasy world where they believe that if I keep spending money and I look this way and it makes me happy, I can just perpetually just keep doing this. But by the end of the road, when they're 30 years past or 20 years past and they have all these good memories of vacations and they get fired or get laid off and then crazy happens, the answer is they have nothing to show for it. So, and there's a lot of weird ideas and beliefs with a lot of these people that I won't go into because I like my job here at YouTube. But for the most part, you want to be very careful, because the thing is that today, status symbols aren't just objects anymore, because anyone can get a status symbol because of credit. It used to be that if I had a fancy car, I could show off. But anyone can have a fancy car. You can lease it, you can finance it. Anyone can have a fancy watch, a fancy house, you can just lease it. So the way a lot of people are distinguishing themselves are not with material things. It's really with beliefs and the way they actually think and what they actually say. So it's another topic. There's a good TED Talk on it. Look it up. I can't remember what the TED Talk name is. But if you look up those words, you'll probably find it, okay? But it's poor people trying to copy people that they think are rich but are actually poor. If someone makes a lot of money, like 200K, 300K a year, and spends a ton of it and has like a negative net worth and all their money is in liabilities, they're not rich. You're trying to copy them, but you're trying to copy someone that's poor. And the reason you don't want to copy somebody that's rich is because, well, rich people aren't really that attractive, okay? They're in their 50s. They have very boring, normal lives that aren't really good for television. So that's the point there. And lastly, guys, you really want to look out for lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation is, as you keep working, you will earn more money naturally because your skills get better. But you want to be careful with making more and spending more and buying things that make you spend more. Having a car, you spend more on maintenance. Having a house, you spend more on this home. So you want to really value the things you buy. For me personally, once I realized that I really was just copying poor people, I just started to kind of just live below my means, invest the difference, and really focus on the things that make me happy. And having a $100 t-shirt doesn't make me happy. And all this other stuff is just trash. A lot of it is just marketing. Wealth really is quiet. And wealth, the whole point of wealth is not to flaunt it or show it. It's just really to have financial independence. So this way, if you lose your job, something happens, you have the ability to not have to worry about that. And to me, I value that a lot more than anything on the outside, for example. Guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Like, subscribe. Peace.